A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Masalladu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihil muntajabin. May the peace and blessings of God be upon Muhammad and his blessed family and the chosen companions. Dear brothers, salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah. With another class on questions and answers, family consultation of Sheikh Qomi, we are with you. We will look at the questions from the brothers that we have not answered on WhatsApp, and we will answer them one by one. The question is from Sister Nadia from Colombia. She says, a question, where does the soul of the little animals that die go? And they will be resurrected when the resurrection comes on the day of the final judgment, or do they simply disappear? Well, let's see if animals have souls like we do, or if they have free will or are responsible for their actions. So, on the day of judgment, they must be resurrected to answer for what they have done. Let's see first. Some people say in the Holy Quran there is a law that states when wild animals, beasts, will be resurrected, gathered on the day of judgment. It is in Surat Al-Takwir. Surat Al-Takwir is chapter 81 of the Holy Quran, verse 5. It says, I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed devil. And when the wild beasts are gathered, assembled on the day of judgment. It is talking about the details of the day of judgment, when all material things will come to an end. And there, things are happening. One of the things is that the beasts will be resurrected. Well, so it says, look, that law of the Holy Quran clearly speaks of the resurrection of animals on the day of judgment. So let's see, are animals resurrected? Let's first see what the meaning of Yawmul Qiyamah is, and then understand if it is possible for animals to be held accountable and for God to question them on the day of judgment. Let's see. The day of judgment is the day when all who have intellect and spirit are responsible for their deeds and must answer. So let's see which of God's creatures possess intellect and, alongside intellect, free will and are responsible. Therefore, on the day of judgment, they must account for their actions. Well, let's look at the creations, different groups of God's creations. First, well, it is God Himself who is not the creation of anyone. God is the creator. Therefore, God is not responsible, nor will He answer to anyone. He is the creator of the law. Therefore, all the law is according to the will of God. The intellect functions according to the will of God. Well, then God is not going to answer. He is questioned by everyone and will not respond. God is not responsible. Let's go to the next group of God's creation, which is the angels. The angels possess intellect, they possess spirit. Yes, it means they understand what they are doing. The works they do it. It means they are doing it on purpose. They understand what they are doing. So do they have intellect? Do they understand what they do? Are they responsible? No. Why? Because angels do not have free will. It means that angels cannot disobey God. So, everything that God commands of them, they obey without fail. So, well, some angels are closer to God. It means a little further away, but all angels are completely obedient to God. So, the idea of accountability makes no sense for angels. And all that talk about fallen angels, rebellious angels, sinful angels is all pure lies. They do not exist. rebellious angel, they do not exist, so everything that is said is a lie? Well, very clear. The Holy Quran, when it speaks of angels, says the angels. In Surah Al-Tahrim, which is chapter 6 of the Holy Quran, when it talks, for example, about hell, it speaks of the angels in charge of hell. Let's see what it says. It says, in the middle of the law, it says, be very careful that on the day of final judgment, there will be a hell. That hell is strong, and that fire beyond, whose fuel is human beings and stones, has powers over it, the angels. These angels are harsh and severe, rigorous, the angels in charge of hell, who do not disobey God in what He commands them, but carry out 100% what they are ordered to do. So, we see that the angels will also not be questioned about what they have done and are not responsible. They obey everything. So it makes no sense to hold them accountable. Let's go to the next creation of God, which is humans. Humans have intellect. They have the Spirit from God. And God says, I have inspired him with my own Spirit. This means that each of us has a part of the Spirit of God that is within us. And for this reason, we have a divine spiritual life that is from God. So we have the Spirit, we have intellect, we can understand things. We have the Spirit and we have free will. When we have free will, it means we can choose between good and evil. We understand that this is wrong and we do it or we leave it. We understand that this is right. We do it or we leave it. So, since we understand things, we understand the truth because we have intellect and we receive the revelation that explains everything to us. At the same time, we can choose. So we are responsible. All human beings are responsible. Those who possess intellect are responsible. This means that a human being who reaches puberty possessing intellect is already responsible. So, the crazy ones, or someone who dies before reaching puberty, no, they will not be responsible. A child is going to die. They will not be held accountable. What happens to those children? A baby is going to die. What happens to them? There are two ideas. Regarding the topic, some say that since they died innocent, they go to paradise. Others say that God will give them another chance in a place called Araf. He will give them another opportunity to act with free will, to do good or evil. Then, again, God will give these beings, the crazy ones and the children, another chance. So, human beings are already responsible. Very clear. There is another group that is also responsible. But before getting to that other group, let's go to where the animals are. What do animals have? They have a material body, yes, and they have life. And the life that God has given them, and they have something called the soul. But it is not the soul that human beings have. And it is not the soul that is the Spirit of God. God never says to the animals, I have inspired my own spirit within the animals. No. If they have a soul, they have some understanding of reality, of truth, and they are glorifying God in the Holy Quran. It says, everyone is glorifying God. And you can see many verses from the Holy Quran that say, for example, the day, the night, the heavens, the earth are glorifying God. There is even the Holy Quran, Surah Ar-Ra'd, Ayah 13, which is chapter 13 of the Holy Quran. Ayah 13 says that even lightning is glorifying God. All beings that exist, not to mention all living beings, in some way have an understanding of everything that is God, everything that we can say is the creation of God. And so, Among those who are glorifying God are the animals, which have some understanding of the truth and are glorifying God. But in the Holy Quran, you can see it, for example, in Surah At-Taghabun, Ayah 1. Surah At-Taghabun is chapter 64. The same is said in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, chapter 62 of the Holy Quran, which says that everything that is on the earth and is in the heavens, all are glorifying God and they are praising God, and God is Almighty over all. So, what does that glorification mean? The scholars say that this glorification is, we can say, following a divine norm of the, we can say the natural instinct that each of the animals has. That is a way of obeying God. It is a way, that is to say, each animal when it is born seeks food, grows. We can say it will mate, it will reproduce. That is to say, it follows a natural norm that we call the innate norms of animals. It is obeying something, right? It is what they call in the West the innate nature. But they follow a norm. It is as if they are glorifying something. They are glorifying God, the law of nature that God has set for them, and they understand it and are in service of God's creation. So everyone is glorifying God. For this reason, when we want to take the soul of an animal, that is to say, we want to sacrifice it, we must do it in the name of God. That is why if you are going to kill a lamb and do not mention God, that lamb becomes unlawful. That is why the meat from the supermarket is unlawful, because the soul has not been taken in the name of God. Therefore, the meat remains cursed. So that meat is impure. The meat from the supermarket, why is it impure? Because of that. So only halal meat, sacrificed halal. What do you do when sacrificing a lamb? Yes, you are going to mention God. You say, Bismillah, and you are going to sacrifice the animal. In the name of God, you take the soul because the soul is sacred. Well, then those animals have a soul, but since they do not possess intellect, free will does not make sense. That is to say, they no longer have that choice. For example, if the lambs understood what was happening to the lambs, no lamb would eat so much to fatten up before going to slaughter. The cows rebelled against the animals. The cows, the bulls that have so much power, became rebellious. There is a very famous book, Animal Farm. The writer is George Orwell. The publication date of the book is August 17th, 1945. In that book, well, it is a political work. The interesting thing about that book is that Animal Farm is a short, satirical novel by British writer George Orwell, published in 1945. The work is a fable, caustic about how the Soviet regime of Joseph Stalin corrupts socialism. But the idea is that on a farm, the animals are going to be rebellious. That is to say, they already understand things. They have free will, they have intellect, so they are going to rebel. Well, without going into the details of that work, that is pure imagination, because that has never happened in the world. That the pigs, cows, and lambs will rebel against the animals, and they will never do it. Why? Because they do not have the intellect. Since they do not possess intellect, free will makes no sense. Since free will makes no sense for animals, it makes no sense to be judged. It makes no sense. So, many wise people believe that already. Animals will not be judged on the day of judgment because they do not have free will. So it makes no sense to hold animals accountable. But on the other hand, some wise people, referencing those verses, say that each of the animals also has some, we can say, understanding of the truth, so they can be witnesses on the day of judgment. We cannot reject that. What does it mean? That they will bring a dog to testify against a human. It could be, or that an animal that has been mistreated will, we can say, within its understanding, denounce the oppression on the day of judgment. That could be. That cannot be rejected. That does not mean that this dog goes to paradise or hell. It is that in the Holy Quran it says, all things, all of God's creation are witnesses. On the day of judgment, your hand will testify against you. Your hand does not have an understanding apart, but the entire universe is like they are instruments of God's recording. The earth, the ground. So on the day of judgment it says, when everyone starts to testify against humanity, humanity will complain about its own body saying, why are you testifying against us? Then your hand, your foot, your limbs start to say, God made us speak, God made us speak. So everyone will testify against us. In that sense, it makes sense that everything records in reality. The walls. Nowadays there is something that has just been discovered, that walls, like normal drywall, when they receive a voice, that voice stays in them for centuries. And they are now looking for devices to see how to recover it. How to recover these voices that the walls received during histories, and how it can be recovered. There is something very, I can say, very detailed, profound in science. Sometimes it is possible to recover something, the voice, the sound that the walls have received. That is now like a hypothesis, but scientists are already investigating it. Without going into those details, let's return to the question, will animals be gathered on the day of judgment? The answer is that they will normally not be judged like us. They do not go to paradise like us, nor do they go to hell. Well, then the answer to this day is no. But between humans and animals, there is another creation of God called yen. Invisible beings, yen. The yen are often labeled as demons, but not all of them are demons. The yin have two groups, believers and non-believers. The non-believing yin are the demons, but the believing yin are believers. They are not demons. They are of the same species, but they are not evil. They are believers. They are blessed. They go to paradise. They do not possess the intellectual power like humans. That is to say, the intellectual power of the yin is much lower than that of humans. It is a little superior to animals, but it is much lower than humans. That is why among the yin, a prophet has never been chosen. God has never chosen a prophet among the yin, but the yin have some understanding of the truth. They can understand, they can learn. They also have free will. They can choose between good and evil, to commit sin or obey God. Therefore, they will be held responsible. So on the day of final judgment, the Holy Quran also speaks a lot about the yin, that they too will be gathered, the yen and humans. Yen neol ends. The yen and humans. And sometimes God has named the yen before humans. And the interpreters of the Holy Quran say that the yen are much more in number. They are much more. That is why he first names the yen and then the humans, although we are superior in number to the yen. Well, it is a super interesting thing that the Holy Quran says about the yen, but that is not our topic now. So, the yen will indeed be gathered, they will be resurrected, they also die and will be resurrected along with humans on the day of final judgment, and must answer for what they have done and must be held accountable. Well, it seems that we have already answered that question, that animals will not be resurrected like us on the day of final judgment. May God bless you.